So the last of the Ulul Azm messengers, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the last of the prophets and messengers, the Khatamun Nabiyyin, was also who? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So who was he? What are his special characteristics? What are his rights? So believing in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is this a part of our Iman? Is it important to believe in the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What if there is a person who believes in Musa alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, but he doesn't believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What's the big deal? He still believes in many of the prophets. He follows the scripture that Musa alayhi salam brought, and he believes in the hereafter. He believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't that sufficient? Is it necessary for a person to believe in Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Yes. Because remember that rejecting even one prophet is like rejecting all of them. Because who is a person rejecting in reality? The Prophet of Allah. The same Lord who sent the other prophets also sent Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if a person rejects one messenger, even that will nullify his faith. In a hadith we learn, the Prophet ﷺ said, by him in whose hand is the life of Muhammad, meaning by Allah. He who amongst the community of Jews or Christians hears about me, but does not affirm his belief in that with which I have been sent with, and dies in the state of disbelief, he shall be but one of the people of the fire. This is a hadith in Muslim, authentic hadith. Meaning a person cannot enter Jannah unless he follows the way of the Prophet ﷺ now. Because that is the guidance that Allah sent through him. And if a person does not comply with that, then he is not upon the right path. He is not upon the right way anymore. Think of it as there is a workplace, and there is a particular set of rules and regulations that the people over there have to observe. Certain policies that they have to abide by. Alright? And what happens? 5 years, a person, he quits. 5 years later, he comes back again. And in those 5 years, there were a lot of changes, a lot of amendments, but he doesn't care about them. He follows the previous rules that were present when he used to work 5 years ago. Is that acceptable? Like, no, get a new copy, please. You have to get updated already. It's been so long. And we are now in the year 2014. We're not in 2009. You have to follow the rules of 2014, not 2009. And if you follow 2009, that's not acceptable. Right? The rules of 2009 were for 2009. And now you have to follow the rules for this current year. That's what is expected of you. And if you do anything else, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to be accepted. Doesn't it happen so many times that people are filing their taxes or submitting in certain assignments or what, but if they miss out one detail, one thing, because they didn't know it was a requirement, everything goes wrong. Everything is rejected. You have to start the process all over again. Because you missed that one detail. Why did you miss it? Because you didn't read the revised rules and regulations. Right? So this happens in the dunya also. In worldly matters also. So likewise, if a person does not believe in Muhammad ﷺ, does not follow him, does not accept him, then his actions will not be accepted. Because remember, there are two conditions for the acceptance of good deeds. First of all, they should be done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sincerity. And secondly, they should be done in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed. The person cannot invent his own ways. They have to be done in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prescribed. Right? The method also, the action, it has to be in conformity with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's laws. Now how is it that you find out what way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes? By following the messenger. By finding out about the instructions that Allah has sent. So believing in the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam is essential. In a hadith we learn that a man came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, "Tuba for the one who sees you and believes in you." meaning how fortunate is he. Good news for him. And Tuba is a particular tree in Jannah that is so huge that a person could be riding on a horse under that tree from one side to the other for many, many, many years. So basically it's huge. So this man said, Tuba for the one who sees you and believes in you. Would you agree with that? Yeah. I mean, imagine the people who saw the Prophet ﷺ, really how fortunate they are. The Prophet ﷺ said, yes, Tuba for the one who sees me and believes in me, but Tuba and more Tuba for the one who believes in me but has not seen me. Who believes in me but has not seen me. In another hadith we learned that once the Prophet ﷺ said, I wish I could meet my brothers. The companion said, are we not your brothers? The Prophet ﷺ said, you are my companions. But my brothers are those who will believe in me without seeing. Who will believe in me without seeing me. So believing in the Prophet ﷺ is an essential part of faith. And it is something that will bring a person a lot of reward. The Prophet ﷺ, he had many special characteristics. One of them is that he was sent as a mercy for mankind, for all people. Not just the Arabs, not just the people of his time, but for all people, all nations, all tribes, all backgrounds, all races, and all times, until the Day of Judgment. And he was sent as a mercy. In a hadith we learned the Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ayyuhan nas, innama ana rahmatun muhdatun. That, O people, indeed I was sent only as a mercy and as a gift. Muhdat meaning hadiyah, as a gift. Mercy for mankind, as a gift for mankind. And we see that the Prophet ﷺ, he was given many, many unique qualities. His miracle was unique. And what was the miracle? The Quran. He was given many unique qualities, such as he was given the amazing art of speaking well, of eloquence. He was preferred over the rest of the messengers in different ways also. In hadith we learn, the Prophet ﷺ said, I have been given superiority over the other prophets in 6 ways. I have been given words which are concise but comprehensive in meaning. Which is why you see that the words of the Prophet ﷺ, you can memorize them. Take the example of the hadith, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. It's basically 3 big words. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. But how meaningful, how profound it is. The scholars interpret this one statement in 6 different ways. In 6 different ways. And every way that you interpret it has a profound meaning to it. And many, many implications. Just 3 words. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Really, he was given words which are concise but also comprehensive in meaning. I have been helped by terror in the hearts of enemies. Meaning his enemies were afraid of him. Spoils have been made lawful to me. The earth has been made for me clean and a place of worship. So no matter where a person is, he can do tayammum if he doesn't find water. And he can pray salah also. And I have been sent to all of mankind. And the line of prophets is closed with me. Because he was the seal of the prophets. The last messenger to be sent to mankind. Now, what are the rights of the Prophet ﷺ? He was sent as a guide to us. We are to follow him. But what are the rights? He exerted a lot of effort in conveying this message to us. Just receiving revelation was something that was so difficult upon him. In hadith we learn, the first time that he received revelation, what happened? The first time that Jibreel came to him, he came and squeezed him. And he squeezed him again. Multiple times. And imagine, in the night, or even if it was the day, Allahu A'lam, but imagine you're all alone in a cave, in a mountain that is far, far from the rest of the people. Who's going to hear you? And he ran back home. And then he was scared. He was worried for himself, but his wife comforted him. And we see that after that, when revelation came to him, if he would be sitting on a camel, that camel would just sit down. Couldn't bear the load. It was so heavy. If the Prophet ﷺ had his knee placed on, someone who was sitting next to him, that person would think my knee is going to explode. It's going to break. Because the pressure was so much. In the night, a cold night, if the wahi came to him, you could see sweat dripping down his forehead. Imagine the difficulty he experienced in receiving revelation and in reciting the Quran before people who doubted him, before people who rejected him outright. Have you ever had to, speak in front of people who don't like you, who criticize you? What happens? Every other word you're stuttering. Right? You forget what you had to say completely. Your mind goes blank. And then while you're talking, you're so nervous. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ had to recite the Quran before people who rejected him completely. Who were just waiting for him to stop reciting so that they could make fun of him. So that they could mock at him and abuse him. So when the Prophet ﷺ underwent so much hardship to deliver this profound message to us, what are our obligations towards him? What are we supposed to do? First of all, we must believe in him. A messenger was sent to be believed in, not to be rejected. Believe in him. Secondly, we must know him. Because belief is also linked with knowledge. How can you love someone and support them and believe that they're right if you don't know them? If you don't know them. Knowing him is an obligation upon us. Also, it's an obligation upon us because we're going to be questioned about him also. Right? We're going to be questioned about him. In the grave, the 3 questions that are going to be asked: who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is the man who was sent to you? Who is your prophet? So we are going to be questioned about him. When can we answer that correctly? If we know him. If we know about how he lived, what he accomplished in his life. And we might think that, we know about the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. We learned that when we went to school. Or we learned that when we went to Islamic school. Or in this one course that we took. Or in that one book that we read many years ago. But it's necessary that we keep reviewing this knowledge. Because you know what? The more you learn about the Prophet ﷺ, the more you love him. The more you love him, then it's easier to follow him. When you know him, then you can love him. Just the other day I was watching this video by this non-Muslim scholar, Karen Armstrong. And this was a speech that she gave about Muhammad ﷺ. And she's written books also. And I was amazed. She knows so much about the Prophet ﷺ that perhaps many Muslims don't know. She knows more than many Muslims know about the Prophet ﷺ. Why did she bother to learn about him? Because she was fascinated by his mission, by his accomplishments, by his character, by his achievements. And we as believers who are supposed to love him more than we love ourselves, how can we love him if we don't know him? If we don't know the year in which he was born, if we don't know the number of battles that he participated in, or if we don't know about his wives, about his children, about his sons, about his daughters, if we don't know about these basic things, then what kind of love do we have? That's not love. Love means you know about that individual. Like for example, if you claim you love your spouse, and somebody asks you, how old are they? No idea. Where were they born? I don't know. What have they studied? I don't know. Is that love? When you love someone, you know everything about them. Isn't that so? And you have that information where? On your fingertips. You don't need to think about it. You'll answer it in a second, in a moment. If somebody asks you, what does your husband like to eat? And you say, I think he likes this, or I think he likes that, then you really don't know your husband. You as a wife, if you don't know what he likes to eat, and then you don't love him. There's something wrong over there. Right? Love means that you know about that individual. So likewise, if we want to love the Prophet ﷺ, if we want to follow him, it's essential that we know him. We know about his appearance, about his words, about his friends, his companions, his family, the little details about him. Like for example, if there's a particular person you are really interested in because of something that they've written or because of something that they've said, then what do you try to find out about them? Where are they from? What have they studied? And where did they come from? And who are they? And then you Google, right? You research, you find out. You find out if they're on Facebook and you follow them. You find out if they're on Twitter and you follow them. Right? This is what love demands. Then of the rights of the Prophet ﷺ, our obligation towards him is that we obey him also. We obey him. There are many mothers over here. If your daughter says, "Mom, I love you." Was this International Women's Day or something recently? Or not Mother's Day, Women's. Right? So if on that day a person comes home and says, "My mom, I think you're the best woman because you did this, you did this, you did this. And I really love you and respect you and appreciate all your accomplishments and this and this and this." And she says, "Oh, my son, I love you. Can you get me a glass of water, please? Oh, I'm really tired." Is that love? No. Love means obedience. It means obedience. So if we really love the Prophet ﷺ, it is necessary that we also obey him. And then you don't need to tell yourself to obey him. Obedience will come naturally. It comes naturally. Then what happens is that a person runs, he hastens to obey the one whom he loves. Because serving the one whom you love is also an honor. Isn't that so? It's an honor. Being their servant is an honor. There was a man back in the time of Jahiliyyah who used to love this particular woman. And he said that, "Do not call me by any name except Ya Abdaha, her servant, her slave. Don't call me by any name, any description. If you want to call me, you want to address me, call me Ya Abdaha, her servant, her slave, because I'm her slave, I love her so much." Because he said, فَإِنَّهُ أَشْرَفُ أَسْمَائِي, because it is the best name that I have. It is the best name that I have. Love translates into servitude and obedience. If it is actually love. And if it doesn't turn into obedience, it is not love. It is just verbal claims. So, loving the Prophet ﷺ, of his rights is that we also obey him. That we follow his example, his life. Allah says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Best example in his life for you. وَمَا آتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ. Whatever the messenger gives you, take it. And whatever he stops you from, keep away from it. أَطِيعُوا اللَّهَ وَأَطِيعُوا الرَّسُولَ. Obey Allah and the messenger. The Prophet ﷺ said, وَصَلُّوا كَمَا رَأَيْتُمُونِي أُصَلِّي. Pray as you see me praying. So this obedience is not just in the matter of just eating halal and haram, but also in the manner of worship. That we try to be as close as possible to his sunnah. As close as possible to his sunnah. Which is why we see that some companions, they followed the Prophet ﷺ so closely because they loved him. For instance, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu. When somebody asked him that, "I see you wearing these sandals. You always wear them. And the rest of the people, they don't wear this style of sandals. You are always wearing them. And you wear them all the time, whether you're at home or you're traveling. This one pair of shoes, and if you get a new pair of shoes, it's always the same style. Why?" He said, "Because I saw the Prophet ﷺ wearing them. So I like to wear them too. He used to wear these kind of sandals, so I like the same kind of sandals." Somebody asked him, "I see that you leave for Hajj at this particular time, whereas the rest of the people, they leave at a different time." He said, "I do this because the Prophet ﷺ did that." So everything, there were 3 questions that they asked. Everything they asked, he said, because the Prophet ﷺ did that. Some companions, they saw the Prophet ﷺ wearing a shirt and the top button was open. It is said that it was Muawiyah. Him and his son, always then, they had their top button open. Because that's how they saw the Prophet ﷺ. So they followed him in that. They were not required to, but they still did it. What made them do it? Love. This is just like you see somebody with a particular hairstyle and you like that individual or that whoever, and you get the same hairstyle. Like people will go to the hairdresser with a picture. I want this. I want this. This is exactly what I want. Why? Because this person has it, so I want it as well. We follow those whom we love. It comes naturally. Alright? Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu, whenever he used to travel, he would seek out the exact locations where the Prophet ﷺ stood and performed prayer. He wasn't required to remember that this particular tree, under it the Prophet ﷺ prayed salah. In Sahih Bukhari, in Kitab al-Salah, there's a whole section on this. So many ahadith that describe the exact locations. A riverbed and this rock and this color of tree and this size. The descriptions are mentioned. Those places are not even there anymore. I mean, they've changed. But Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu remembered them so well that he narrated them. He described them. And whenever he would pass those ways, he would stop there and perform prayer. Why? Love. Love. Love translates into obedience. Love makes you follow the one whom you love. You don't have to make yourself do it. So how is it that we can love the Prophet ﷺ? If we know him. Knowledge. And believe me, if you regularly study the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, it will really help you in following the sunnah. I heard that, alhamdulillah, there is a weekly halaqah over here in Dallas, in one of the masajid, on seerah. Which one is it? In this masjid, by Sheikh Abdul Nasir, on seerah. Right? So it's such an excellent opportunity where the entire family can come and, learn the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. If you already know it, review it. Because then it's easier to love the Prophet ﷺ and follow him also. Then, of his rights is also that we must respect him. And we must support him. Because the one whom you love, you respect them also. The one whom you love, you support them also. So for instance, if you really love your parents or your spouse, then you cannot tolerate anybody disrespecting them. If they are disrespected, you are embarrassed. You are disrespected. You get hurt. Like for example, some women, they're very possessive about their children. Or rather, they're very protective. They're very sensitive when it comes to their children. So if somebody yells at their children or does not treat them nicely, they get very, very offended. Like for example, some mothers, they will go to the school and they will talk to the teacher and they will file an official complaint against the headmistress or whoever because they are being biased towards my child. They have neglected my child. They have done this to my child. Why? Why all of this support and defense? Love. In the Quran we learn that the Prophet should be closer to the believers than themselves. النَّبِيُّ أَوْلَى بِالْمُؤْمِنِينَ مِنْ أَنفُسِهِمْ. That they must love the Prophet ﷺ more than they love themselves. They must support the Prophet ﷺ more than they support their own cause, their own personal cause. You watch out for yourself. You want the best for yourself. You care about yourself. And the more is required from us. For who? For the Prophet ﷺ. And supporting him also. Supporting him in what way? Supporting his mission. Because what was his mission? To convey the Quran. The Prophet ﷺ said, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً. Convey from me even if you know one ayah. So if we have learned one thing from the religion and we pass that on to someone who does not know, what are we doing? Supporting the mission of the Prophet ﷺ. We're passing it on. We're carrying it forward. We're making him more successful. Because then he will have more people in his ummah on the Day of Judgment. Defending him also is one of the obligations upon us. In a hadith we learn that before the Prophet ﷺ migrated to Medina, remember that the people of Medina, they came to Makkah and they offered him to come so that, he could be in Medina and he wouldn't have any fear, any threat over there. A pledge was made with the people of Medina who had come. The pledge of Aqaba. So, and the people of Medina, those few people, they came at the time of Hajj. So when they came, the Prophet ﷺ, he met them in Mina and he told them to be quick. because he didn't want the people of Makkah to find out that this conversation was going on. This meeting was taking place between the Prophet ﷺ and the people of Medina. So anyway, the people of Medina, one of them, he asked, O Prophet ﷺ, demand from us anything you want. What are we supposed to do towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Meaning, what is our obligation towards Allah? And what is our obligation towards you and your companions? The Prophet ﷺ said, your obligation towards Allah is that you worship Him alone. And what I ask from you, from myself, is that you defend us from the same that you defend yourselves from. You defend us, you help us in the same way that you defend yourself, you help yourself. The Prophet ﷺ and the believers. So basically, that you will be sincere and loyal in your defense, in your support, in giving shelter to us. You will want the same that you want for yourself. That if we are to come to Medina, you don't abandon us. So the people said, okay, what will we have in return if we do this? The Prophet ﷺ said, for you will be Jannah. If you defend me the way you defend your children, if you support me the way you support your children, then what will you have in return? Jannah. So the people said, we promise you over this. We are going to defend you. Did they fulfill their promise? The Ansar? Yes, they did. They really did. To the point that, remember the hypocrite, Abdullah bin Ubay, his son was a sincere believer. In one of the expeditions, Abdullah bin Ubay, he mocked at the Prophet ﷺ really bad, and he said that when we get back to Medina, then the one who has more honor is going to expel the one who does not have honor. So basically he was hinting that when we get there, I'm going to finish this matter of Muhammad ﷺ. This is what he was hinting at. When his son, who was a sincere believer, when he found out, he was standing at the entry into Medina with a sword. With a sword. That no, you are adhal, my father. You are more humiliated and you're not going to enter into Medina unless the Prophet ﷺ allows you. Imagine, standing there with a sword and threatening your father like that. Why? Because this is how you defend your own children. That sometimes you don't even let your parents speak against your children because you defend them. Right? You don't let anyone speak against your children, hurt your children in any way. So they really defended the Prophet ﷺ. They fulfilled that promise of theirs. Then of our obligations towards the Messenger ﷺ is also that we believe that his teachings are sufficient. Meaning they're enough for us. In the sense that whatever the Prophet ﷺ brought, it is best. We must follow it. And when we follow it, there's really nothing else that we need. This doesn't mean that we don't look into other things that are of benefit. Yes, we benefit from them. But always, what will take precedence? What will take priority? The statements of the Prophet ﷺ. Many times it happens that we look into words of wisdom. What did so-and-so say? What did so-and-so say? What did this scholar say? What did that scholar say? And it's good, because there are words of wisdom. And inshallah, they were all rightly guided, so their words are very meaningful. Right? Very beneficial. They make you think. But remember, when the statement of the Prophet ﷺ comes, it will always be given preference over the statements of other people. And if we pay a lot of attention to the statements of others, we must pay more attention to the statements of Muhammad ﷺ. If we're always looking for interesting quotes, whose quotes should we be most interested in? Of Muhammad ﷺ. His words we should memorize. His teachings we should follow. His teachings we should love. And we must believe that his teachings are sufficient. In a hadith we learned the Prophet ﷺ said, indeed, there is nothing that will draw you close to Jannah except that I have informed you about it. I have told you about it. And there is nothing that will draw you close to the hellfire except that I have stopped you from it. So if there is anything that could take you to Jannah, the Prophet ﷺ has informed you about it. And if there is anything that could take you to hellfire, the Prophet ﷺ has already warned us about it. So his teachings are really sufficient. Then also of his rights is that we must not turn away from his teachings. Because man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni. If you love a particular individual, then you follow their way also. You don't turn away from them. Like for example, you love your mom, you love the way she cooks, then whose recipes will you follow? Your mom's or some random person from the internet? Your mom's. You'll be so proud about it that this is how my mom cooks this particular food. And I always do it this way. Right? And if you leave that and start following this random person off the internet who makes videos in their house and uploads them on YouTube, and you start giving preference to their recipes, and your mom finds out, will she be okay with that? I spent so many hours teaching you how to cook, and this is what you're doing? Watching somebody on YouTube and following them? What about all those techniques that I taught you? Aren't they much better? Right? So مَنْ رَغِبَ عَنْ سُنَّتِي فَلَيْسَ مِنِّي. Whoever turns away from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then he is not of him. Meaning he does not belong to him. He does not belong to his people. In another hadith we learn, the Prophet ﷺ said, if I forbid you to do something, then keep away from it. And if I order you to do something, then do of it as much as you can. As much as you can, then do it. Also, one more right is that we must excessively send blessings upon him. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. When is it that we must send blessings upon him? Every time his name is mentioned. Alright, when else? In the salah, before the salam, good. After the shahud, when else? On Friday, very good. When making dua, excellent. In the morning, in the evening, good. And? After the adhan, very good. Okay, but one more time when we should, when you go to the masjid, when we enter the masjid. And alhamdulillah, this masjid is so good that on the door there's a big sign of the dua. So don't forget to say that. The Prophet ﷺ said, مَنْ نَسِيَ الصَّلَاةَ عَلَيَّ خَطِئَ طَرِيقَ الْجَنَّةِ. Whoever forgets to pray for blessings for me, then he has erred from the way to Jannah. If he forgets to send blessings on me, then he has forgotten his way to Jannah. This is something very serious. Because when his name is mentioned, or when we are entering the masjid, sometimes we're so distracted that we don't bother to say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Whereas if you think about it, how difficult is it? Is it really hard to say sallallahu alayhi wasallam? It's not. But it's like we have the stress. When his name is going to be mentioned, I have to say sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Come on, we're women, we love to talk anyway. Right? It's easy for us to talk. So why not say sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Also, of his rights is that we must have a soft heart towards him, meaning sensitive about him. Just like we're sensitive about our children, sensitive about our parents, sensitive about our loved ones, we must be soft-hearted towards him. The Prophet ﷺ said, indeed there are from among the believers those whose hearts are soft towards me. Those whose hearts are soft towards me, meaning with love, with obedience, care. Then also, we must also fulfill our part of the responsibility. The Prophet ﷺ, he came with a mission. And what was that? To convey the message to the people. Did he fulfill his responsibility? Yes. He fulfilled his responsibility, which is why on Hajjat al-Wada', what did he ask the people? Have I conveyed? Ala hal ballaght? And what did the people say? Bala. They said, yes, of course. And he said, Allahumma shahad. Oh Allah, you bear witness that I have conveyed. So he conveyed. What is our responsibility? That we take it. If somebody is giving you a gift, what is your responsibility? You accept it. And then once you accept it, don't just put it away, but open it up, use it, benefit from it. Because if you don't benefit from it, then that's not fair. Somebody gave you a gift not so that you put it in a box or you leave it in the box and put it in the storage room. No, they gave it to you so that you enjoy it, you use it. So the Prophet ﷺ fulfilled his part by delivering the message. What is our part? Accept it, follow it, implement it. In a hadith we learned the Prophet ﷺ said, أَنَا حَظُّكُم مِّنَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ وَأَنْتُمْ حَظِّي مِنَ الْأُمَمِ. That I am your share from among the prophets. From among the prophets, Who is your Prophet? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you are my share from among the different communities. So basically, from among all the prophets, I am yours. And from among all the communities, you are mine. I am yours and you are mine. Did the Prophet ﷺ fulfill his responsibility towards us? Yes. Are we fulfilling our responsibility towards him? Accepting him, following him, supporting his mission. And then remember that while we respect him, we follow him, we must also remember to neither increase nor decrease his level. Keep him at the level which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him. Because sometimes out of love and respect we exalt him to the level of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or even higher. Many times people do that out of love and respect for him. And others go to the other extreme of disrespecting him, treating him like just any other human being. His statement, it's only a sunnah. It's only a hadith. It's not in the Quran, is it? So what if the Prophet ﷺ did it? Why do I have to follow him? What's the big deal? Right? So we must remember to neither increase his status nor decrease it. The Prophet ﷺ said, do not exaggerate in praising me as the Christians praise the son of Maryam. Do not do that. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, O people, you must have taqwa and do not let shaitan attack you, meaning concerning me, so that you start doubting my truthfulness. And then while we love him, we must also love his family and his companions and those who follow his way. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the ability to truly love his messenger, know him, benefit from his teachings, follow his way. And may we become of those people whom the Prophet ﷺ will be happy with on the Day of Judgment. Because on the Day of Judgment, some people, they will come to the hawd. They will come to the hawd in order to drink from the water over there. But you know what will happen? They will be stopped. They will not be allowed to go. The Prophet ﷺ will say, these are people of my ummah, let them come. He will be told that you don't know about what these people did after you. What these people did after you. What kind of things they innovated in their religion. How they went astray despite having the truth before them. They abandoned your teachings, your sunnah, and preferred the ways of others. They belittled your way, looked down upon it. And so those people will not be allowed to come close to the Prophet ﷺ. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.